I learned about time in secondary school the same way you learn about ghosts, something people described while you nodded along and pretended you felt it. I could tell you what it does, how to use it on a clock. Feeling it? That came much later, when small things started rearranging my life. 13 arrived for me without fireworks. I was shy, obedient, and the kind of kid who kept his head down. I went to school, did my homework, and tried hard not to fail because I wanted my parents to be proud. That year felt like a path already staked out for me. School, home, church, repeat. It wasn't until I turned 14 that two small things sent me off in a new direction. One, I made a friend. I'm not talking about an acquaintance. I'm talking about a real buddy. Someone who could relate to me and actually talk with me. I was odd growing up. I wasn't outspoken and could go weeks without talking to anyone in class. I was so odd that I was somewhat of a freak, and the only reason I wasn't bullied at school was that I was among the top 10 performers and I was needed during tests and exams. It also helped that I was big and fat, in a good way. I could move my body pretty well. Years of selling and carrying drinks in my mother's shop at least gave me some strength. Ruona, my friend at the time, was God-sent. He helped me come out of my shell and become more expressive. He was kind, smart, and funny. The only downside was his situation. Ruona's parents were well-to-do, and that couldn't be hidden. This made Ruona very popular with the ladies, and what young blood wouldn't enjoy the attention? So by default, Ruona became a ladies' man. Envious? Yeah, a little. Because the vixens were dragging him around, and I couldn't help but smile when I recall it. That summer, I had my second experience that changed my life. My mother, a good woman I loved so much, and later the source of much of my pain, decided to enroll me in a holiday school. She was concerned about the fluctuation of my results and was convinced by her friend that extra lessons would be good for me. Honestly, I had mixed feelings at the time. I mean, which kid wants to escape school only to go to more school? But I didn't protest. I was a good, obedient kid then, and I knew my mom wouldn't have heard anything I said on the matter. So, barely a week at home, I made the walk to the lesson center. And I wasn't alone, thank God. I walked with acquaintances, some of whom I've already forgotten, but I couldn't forget one, DG. DG's family were very good friends of ours, and my mother treated him like the son she never had, much to my expense. Oh, this is a good time to mention I have 3 younger siblings. I'm the eldest of 4, although my dad had other children before me. Back to DG. He was like any normal boy my age, but his parents didn't know that. His parents were pastors, and their standards and discipline were strict, to say the least. This led DG to play 2 roles: the quiet, good pastor's son in front of his parents, and the guy man, player boy with a little delinquent style away from them. It's also important to note that DG's parents own the school holding the holiday classes. So yeah, they were loaded. But you would never know. DG dressed normal and acted like the crowd. But I didn't care that his family had more money than us. All I cared about was that he was fun to be around. I was very simple then, and honest with my behavior. I'll spare you the bore of how I was nearly choked to death by DG on our way to the lesson just because we were practicing our WWE skills. Yeah, that happened. We laughed about it for years. We got to our destination, took our seats, and waited for the teacher. The noisy atmosphere did nothing to quench my nerves. I just didn't like school at the time. What can I say? The wait, which seemed to stretch to infinity, was actually short-lived. Minutes later, our teacher stood in front of the board. His presence quieted the crowd, but the words he wrote next on the board were the knife that slew the noise. Chemistry. For all things to learn, our first subject had to be one I utterly despised. I thought to myself, yep, I'm dead. But then, he started to speak. He wasn't eloquent in a way a speech teacher is eloquent. He didn't read from notes, he didn't perform. He had a rough, patient authority, the kind you feel in your bones. People shifted in their seats as if some gravity has changed. The back row that usually cracked jokes went quiet, leaning forward, like they were listening for a secret. For 40 minutes, everything he said felt like someone had opened a window in a sealed room. The words hung heavy and clear. My hands resting in my lap went still, as if they knew they should not break the spell. The light in the classroom dimmed a notch in my head, not because the sun moved, but because attention sharpened. When he moved to maths, and then to physics. It felt less like a lecture, and more like someone handing me a map to a place I didn't know I wanted to visit. When I got home that day, I did the one stupid thing I only ever did on exam days. I opened a book. If you think I picked chemistry first, you'd be wrong. Chemistry started the spark, but physics pulled me in. I opened the physics book and kept turning pages until the light in the parlor got soft. Problems that had once been brick walls began to look like puzzles I might solve. For the next 6 weeks, I read and practiced every day. At first, I stumbled. Then I learned how to stand again. Small wins, a problem solved, a concept that finally clicked, kept me going. It wasn't glamour, it was steady. It was quiet work that felt like building a small ladder inside of me. A week later, school resumed. I took my bath, dressed, and waited for the bus like always. But something had changed. I climbed aboard with a book tucked under my arm. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel overly confident. I just felt different, in a way I couldn't name. The route was the same. The sun was the same. The road was the same dust, but inside, I wasn't counting hours anymore. I was counting possibilities. There are small details I can still see when I close my eyes. The smell of chalk under Mr. Professor's fingernails. The way the back row leaned forward without knowing why. DG trying to look pious in front of his parents, and silly the next minute. Rona laughing at a joke he'd already told. There's the memory of me carrying crates, of sweating in my mother's shop, of being the elder of 4, eyes always on the prize of not letting my family down. If you asked me then where all of this would take me, I'd laugh and say I didn't know. I only knew that a book, a man, and a friend had rearranged how I saw the world. That summer taught me that small things can be powerful. A word on a board, a laugh on a bus, a stubborn hour with a book. They don't always announce themselves like turning points. They creep up, steady as a tide. I didn't know then that this curiosity would ask for sacrifices, or that the path it opened would bring me to choices that would pull at my family. I only knew I wanted to keep going, to read, to practice, to try. That was enough for now.